Welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love. And hey, General, we talking about Attorney Greg Jackson. How are you doing this evening, brother?
Once again, it's on, Brother Love. Hey, you know how we get this thing started every week, man. How's this weekend, this past week?
Weekend was great, but I was just like, man, I was like sitting back, Greg, watching you swim to the studio, man, in all this storm.
Listen, I don't know if people can hear what's going on outside, but what's that? It's going down in the DL.
It's going down. It's going down.
It's coming down. It's coming down in the DL.
And I told our engineer, I said, hey, man, I feel sorry for Greg because I don't have an umbrella in the office.
I have an umbrella. I just don't want to use it.
Yeah,
By the time I get it out there and pull it up and everything else, then
Hey.
I'm taking it right back down.
When I say it's storming, I start seeing you were doing this, and then you start doing the backstroke.
Well, listen, only sugar melt in the rain.
Only sugar melt in the
I'm
rain?
good, man. I'm good. I'm made out of that old what they call out of that old live oak wood. So I'm good.
Well, I'm gonna go back to the steel stuff because what was it saying you say all the time? Steel sharpens,
yeah,
iron sharpens iron. What I'm talking
I'm
about?
talking about steel sharpens
Hey,
steel.
I'm getting water on the brain.
And you're a preacher's son-in-law too.
Oh, don't say okay. Hey, Pastor King, that's him trying to start something.
Steel sharp as steel.
No, iron sharpens iron. Okay, all right. I shouldn't even open up my mouth. Hey, welcome to Let's Talk Nation once again. I'm your man, Rod Love, and sitting next to me is the General Attorney Greg Jackson.
Listen, Brother Love, for those who are tuned into this podcast, as always, you're tuned in to two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday Night Podcast. Brother Love and Greg Jackson, the dynamic duo, guaranteed to raise your IQ 10 to 15 points. And on some nights, Brother Love, we go 10 more than that.
We're gonna push it on up.
20 to 25. But listen, if you want to be a part of tonight's show, all you got to do is hit 321-483-7002. Y'all got the chair in front of the number. Y'all know
All right, that wasn't my fault. You blame that on Armando. Blame that on Armando.
321-483-7002. If you want to be a part of the show and speak to two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday Night Podcast, Brother Love and Greg Jackson, the dynamic duo. Brother Love, let's
Get it on. Boy, I tell you, I love that intro. Hey, Greg, man, I got to tell you, man, I am really excited about just all of the things that are taking place. People are actually reaching out to seek more information about what's taking place in their community. And what I'm talking about more specifically is people want to know about the folk who are asking for their vote in representing them.
Listen, absolutely. Now we are fully engaged in election season. This is a time when candidates are having to get out to the community even more so because primaries, for the most part here in the state of Florida, are going to be coming up in August, which August is just around the corner. August and September, I need to go and double check that, but we have someone that's going to get us clear on that anyways. But, now is the time that we want Let's Talk Nation to get an opportunity to hear from individuals who are wanting to serve, wanting to be a part of the community in a special kind of way. And so, we have someone here tonight that's gonna have some conversation with Let's Talk Nation.
We put the call out and we told those folk that are out there running for office, engage Let's Talk Nation so that you can come and tell the people what your platform is. And that way we don't have to do it for them.
Listen, because they can let us do it ourselves now. That may not be a wise decision.
Some people have learned lessons from that, right?
Absolutely. But, listen, Brother Love, the other thing, too, I don't know if many people have realized, but this past week was 4th of July celebration week. And so, happy birthday, America.
You're right.
I know that there are a lot of people. I saw a lot of people say, hey, I'm not too happy about what's taking place in America. I can't celebrate what's going on. And listen, that's your right. That's everyone's right to do so. That's what makes this one of the freest countries, if not the freest country in the world, is because you have the right to express those opinions. But, as for me and my house, we celebrate 4th of July. We celebrate Independence Day just like we celebrate all of the other applicable holidays. And so we want to say that we hope that everyone had a happy and safe 4th of July. As a matter of fact, Brother Love, in being here in the tourist capital of the world, Central Florida, I want to say that on the roads, not say here in particular, but I want to say they said on the roads that 60 million people traveled this year, which now I believe surpasses the pre-COVID numbers of individuals traveling on the 4th of July holiday.
So are we back?
Listen, I believe we're back.
We're back?
I believe we're back.
Okay.
So.
Hey, Attorney Greg Jackson, I got to say this, and this is sort of like one of those moments of privilege, if you would.
What you got?
Man, just can't help but to recognize this brother who has really been navigating and doing some incredible things, man. I mean, he's somebody that we've had on the show. You've recognized him. I'm talking about none other than our supervisor of election, Mr. Glenn Galzine.
Okay.
But I'm going back further than that because you made me think about this. This guy, when he was the president CEO of the Central Florida Urban League, he was out there making moves then.
Right.
Then you see his moves when he was appointed by Governor DeSantis over the former Reedy Creek. Have you been reading the headlines? $18 billion, and as a result of the $18 billion that Disney has pledged, half of that will be contracted with small businesses.
Really?
Yes.
Now, you know, the question is going to be, Brother Love, we've heard this song and dance before.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
excuse me if I'm a little bit skeptical, but I've heard about big businesses that are going to invest in small businesses, and in particular, small African-American businesses, and we've been left wanting. So
I cannot argue with that, because the conversation you're having right now is the $50 billion that was committed, and of that $50 billion, we, through research and what have you, we've been able to ascertain that only $250 million was realized.
Which is not even 10% of what was pledged. But listen, I'm optimistic, Brother Love.
Come on, yeah, let's be, because
I'm
the
optimistic
reason why I
tonight.
want you to be optimistic on that, and I go back to say, Mr. Glenn Gelzine was an architect of helping to facilitate that, and then I'm gonna move us fast forward to him in his capacity as supervisor of election. Great, the level of transparency, the level of community engagement, and something you and I have talked about a million times is, and I think we may differ, and it's great that we differ, because I don't think we need to be in a position to where we just gotta really put our arms around the faith community to say souls to the polls on Sunday. But it has been, and I will acknowledge, a good, worthwhile event to take place. And Mr. Gelzine has placed an emphasis, and we're not just talking about black churches. We're talking about faith communities, period.
I mean, well, I'll say this, going back to the 15 billion you said?
18.
18 billion? All right, that's a lot of money. All right, but let's go back to that. If it's anyone that I have faith in that can get done what needs to be done, and I'm not just saying this because I count Glenn Gelzine as a friend. I'm saying this because I have watched Glenn Gelzine at work in a number of different capacities and succeed in those different capacities. And I'm saying that because I've seen Glenn Gelzine exhibit an understanding of underserved communities and the things needed in those underserved communities. Because remember, when I was talking CRAs, community redevelopment agencies, Glenn Gelzine was the counter talking about community reinvestment agencies,
You're right.
the Community Reinvestment Act. So he has a very good understanding of how to get funds into communities. And if it's there, my trust is that Brother Gelzine will get it where it needs to be. That's my trust. Now, better call him and tell him now. Better call him and tell him, because listen, if a different report comes back, but Brother Gelzine has not disappointed me yet.
You know what? I'm not going to add anything else to that, Greg. I think at this part of the conversation, we're going to take a quick commercial break, because...
Oh, you're trying to censor me.
Oh, no, I'm not going to censor you.
You want to silence me.
Oh, man, listen. Listen to this. You know what? What I'm saying is, you said and ended that so well about Mr. Glenn Gelzine that I don't even need to add anything else to it.
All right, that's what you said the right way.
I said it right.
We all right down there. We all right.
Hey, for those of you who tuned in to Let's Talk Nation, we're going to take a quick break because we have something that you will not want to miss. We'll be right back on Let's Talk Nation.
Daybreak iFix. Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Jaguars and Porsche. Joe's Quality Auto Repair. I specialize in European cars. Daybreak iFix at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair. Located at 1240 State Road 436 in Altamont Springs. Daybreak iFix. Call me, mention Let's Talk Nation and bring your certified dealership repair quote. And I beat by 30%. Remember, Daybreak iFix. Call me at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair at 407-409-6040. Again, 407-409-6040. After Daybreak iFix. Joe's European Quality Auto Repair.
Let's Talk Nation, and we told you that we have a treat for you. And you know, everybody already knows nobody does introductions like the general does. So I'm going to go ahead and do this baton handoff so that he can introduce our illustrious guest.
Listen, Brother Love, it is an honor and a privilege to have in the studio with us tonight a young lady who has decided to put her hat in the ring to place herself out for public service. It is not an easy task when one decides that they want to put themselves in this position. And so we want to say thank you very much tonight to Ms. Lenore Easter for coming out and speaking to us tonight about her candidacy for Orange Osceola County Public Defender. Ms. Easter, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you both for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So listen, let's jump right into it. A lot of folks have been excited about hearing about you coming. We talked about you a little bit last week, just to tickle the fancies of Let's Talk Nation. You know, when you got 2 million listeners,
Ooh.
you got to let them know ahead of time. So we have to let our 2 million plus
Prepare the
listeners
way.
know. That's
And
right.
Greg loves doing this cliffhanger thing with people, so he made people hang on for this week. So now you gotta do this show so that not only does the ratings go up, but then
Oh, wow.
Greg likes to be right all
Okay,
the time.
okay.
So go
Just
ahead.
most of the time.
Just most of the time.
Not all.
Not all the time.
Pressure.
Most of the time. But listen, so Ms. Easter, please introduce yourself to Let's Talk Nation. Let's have a conversation.
Sure. So my name is Lenora Easter. I have been a public defender for over 15, possibly 16 years. I practice locally here at the Ninth Judicial Circuit. It's actually where I started my career. I then, after 5 years, went back to the Bronx, New York, where I'm from, and I practiced at the Bronx Defenders. And it
I
is-
don't.
How can we?
Wait,
Yeah.
I don't
You
hear
didn't
a
notice
Bronx-
that? You
I
didn't
don't-
notice the
I don't-
Bronx in there?
You don't hear no Bronx accent in that.
Hey man, I feel like
How many times people
Bronx-
say you sound like you from the Bronx?
all the time.
See, now, that time I heard it. That time I heard it. Now you legit. I got you now. I'm sorry. I cut you off. My apologies.
No, it's fine. But it was at the Bronx Defenders where I learned how to advocate not only inside the courtroom but outside the courtroom, and how that is very much very important when you're doing public defense. Yes, it is important to stand by your clients, and it is important to advocate and make sure that we're dealing with the criminal cases that are before them. But then what is driving our clients into the system? What is causing them to recidivize and come back into the system? And we need to deal with those social needs. And that takes advocacy, that takes community engagement, getting involved, referring our clients to resources that they otherwise would not be able to have. Currently, I'm a regional director for a national nonprofit where I get to actually work with chief public defenders across the nation to help them take their offices from a traditional way of just focusing on the cases to this holistic, client-centered model where we focus on the drivers that bring the individuals into the system. And I get to do this in many various different states, and I enjoy doing it. And now I want to bring that model here to the Ninth Circuit.
So we hear the Bronx, and my question to you, what are the ties that you have to Central Florida? Talk to us about that.
So I've been in Central Florida since 1996, and maybe I'm dating myself by saying that, this young face, but I'm a little older. I went to UCF, I got my degree in business finance, because originally I wanted to do entertainment and business law, and again, I might be dating myself. I wanted to work for Bad Boy and be an entertainment lawyer,
Yeah,
but you see
yeah.
how God spared me, because
Yeah,
you
oh,
see
yeah.
what's going on.
Oh yeah, you're
Well,
right.
no, he would have been in the criminal arena.
Either
by
way,
chance
right?
anyways,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I come from a family of law enforcement. My dad is 29 years NYPD. My mom was a correctional officer at Rikers, as well as a correctional officer here at 33rd.
Oh, wow.
So I had law enforcement in my family, and I kind of wanted to go a different way. But it was when I did that internship while I was in law school at Barry Law, which is here in Florida,
Okay.
that I realized the importance of being a public defender. My family, my immediate family, my parents, my brother, my sister, my siblings, they live here in Florida. I live here. Yes, I went to the Bronx and I worked there for about 8 years, but I've always been here in Florida. And this is where I plan to lay my roots and live out my days.
Outstanding. So listen, in talking a little bit about, what you've done in the past, you talked about, the Public Defender's Office,
Yes.
the national organization that you're a part of. Can you talk to Let's Talk Nation about the difference between a public defender and a state attorney?
Good one. Good
Yes.
one. I want to hear this now.
Yes. So now there are two bodies that kind of are the important parts of the criminal legal system. Well, three actually, because you have the judicial, which is the judge, but then you have the prosecutor, which is the state attorney. The prosecutor is the one that works alongside usually law enforcement to either bring the charges against our clients and prosecute the cases to what they say is the fullest extent of the law beyond a reasonable doubt. And then you have the public defenders. By the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution, an individual that is charged with a crime and cannot afford cannot afford an attorney, is afforded a public defender to represent them in court. And so we work on opposite sides of the aisle, and it is an adversarial space. But the model I'm bringing calls for us to have and be able to work collaboratively in some spaces. Because if you don't work together in some regard, you're never going to get anything done. You know, like the old adage, a house divided against
Well,
itself
right.
will not stand. So yes, we have to advocate against one another, but there are times where we do need to work together to be able to get the cases that honestly shouldn't be going through the system for 2-3 years, get those cases in and out, and focus on the more serious cases.
So let's flesh this out just a little bit more, because when I hear you talking about the role of a public defender, you are the person that would in essence represent the individual whose charges
That is correct.
are being brought against.
Correct.
And in terms of when we talk about protecting those individuals' interests, and I understand the working together part, but in terms of the individual that would work to reduce sentencing, to keep folks from being placed on death row and all the other things, that traditionally would be the role of the public defender.
Yes, that is correct. And don't get me wrong, as a public defender, we have to zealously advocate for our clients, okay? And that means we have to fight to the fullest extent of the law on our side to make sure that our clients are well represented, that there's fairness, equality, and justice as we go and navigate through the system, because we know that that's not normally the case, right? What I'm just saying is that there are times when we, need to work together. For example, diversion type programs, right? Low-level situations where individuals, it should be, they do some community service, maybe pay a fine, and the case is dismissed and moved, and they get to move on, and hopefully they will not find themselves back in the system again, okay? So in those regards, yeah, we do need to come together, we need to kind of work together. But for the most part, the holistic model says that there should be social services, there should be social workers, there should be advocates that work alongside the assistant public defenders and the public defender herself, and they do the wraparound support for our clients. So traditional public defense says, we just look at the criminal case, right? I stand before you in court, I deal with the criminal case. I don't care what happened to you, like I don't care that it affects your housing, and I don't care that it affects the fact that your kids may be taken out of your home, or that you don't have any, you don't have employment. As a holistic defense, we work to get our clients connected to those particular resources so that they stabilize themselves, they become better, productive citizens in the community, and then that fosters public safety for everyone else.
And you know what? You just said something that I'm sitting up here and I'm thinking, how do I pose this question of public safety?
Yep.
And so
There you go.
I'm gonna tell you, Greg and I, we throw balls and strikes here. You just hit one out of the park, because I was figuring out, when you talk about your dad, and I listen carefully, law enforcement.
Yep.
You talk about your mother working in Rikers in
Yes.
New York and 33rd here. I'm listening to you and I'm saying, she comes from a family oriented in public safety. And you just weave yourself right down. So, okay, all right, I can't even throw that strike now.
Yeah, now once again, though, we are having a great conversation with Lenora Easter. She is a candidate for Orange Osceola County Public Defender, and we are talking to her about the role of a public defender. We've
Yes.
had a chance to talk to her about her roots and how it is that she has found herself in this place at this time. But more specifically, having worked as an assistant district public defender, excuse me.
Yes.
What has prompted you to step out of the ranks, so to speak, into wanting to become the man or the woman that everyone is looking to for policies and to guide this agency?
Because I'm doing that now, working with many public defenders across the nation, it is like second nature to me. When I started doing holistic defense, I was like, this is the way that we need to be doing public defense. Now, after 24 years, Mr. Wesley, who also is the public defender who has been in office for 24 years and has also endorsed me, he's stepping down. I have an opportunity to leverage all of my experience, all of my leadership skills, all of the education that I have learned, and bring that model here to Orlando, and to be able to make our community a better place. Orlando has evolved over those 24 years. We're not the same. Our world has changed. A lot has happened even after COVID. Our public defense needs to catch up with that evolving world. And I am the only candidate that has the ability, that has done the work, and can be able to do it day one, and institute this model and make it work.
Wow.
I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking and I'm processing, because we do need to catch up from a technology standpoint. When we look at it, and Attorney Greg Jackson and I, we're talking all the time about social media and how we're always chasing to catch up
Yeah.
with social media. But I'm thinking about things when you speak about those social services that are in communities. I think about how possibly those social services can actually act as a support arm
Yes.
from a public safety standpoint. And one initiative that's being launched here in Orange and Seminole County is Responsible Fatherhood Initiative, which is going to be focusing on non-custodial fathers that have child support orders.
Right.
Another component of it, you can't be a responsible father if you don't have control of your own emotions, and I'm talking about de-escalation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you know, I tell you, and just for transparency and disclosure, I've never seen you before this
Today,
show.
correct.
Didn't know. I've heard a lot about you.
Thank you. That's good. I'm glad.
And attorney Greg Jackson, he said, Brother Love, we've been engaged, and that's all we ask for folk that are out there running for office. So, man, you hitting them out the park right now.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, this is a passion of mine. This isn't just talk, this isn't just for a title, this isn't just for money. I have a great job where, like I said, I'm doing things over the nation. This is my home, this is where I plan to lay, like I said, lay down my roots. And this is where I want to come and be able to take everything that I've learned to make it better here, to leverage this office and elevate it to the next level where it needs to be.
So speaking of, laying your roots, this is where you want to be and different things like that, I got to ask some of the hard questions.
Okay.
Some of the things that Brother Love and I have done in the community is that we have done community events and we've had, different members of the judiciary to come out, judges. I even believe we've had state attorneys. But we have not, and Brother Love, correct me if I'm wrong, we have not seen the public defender come out and engage the community. How important is it to you to engage the community to be able to effectively represent the individuals that may find themselves in need of your representation or your agency's representation?
It is very important. How can we partner with each other if we're siloed, right? I cannot just be sitting in my, nice office behind my desk and not be out in the community with the people and the individuals that may become my clients. But not only that, with the organizations that we will then have to refer our clients and to get the resources that they need. I am very big on advocacy outside the courtroom. It was one of the biggest things I got to do when I was in New York. I got to lobby with elected officials. I got to testify in front of city council. I got to do block parties. I started an early defense team where we represented individuals pre-arrest. Because I don't know, for most people who know, a public defender doesn't get a client doesn't get a public defender until after they've been arrested. And now they are before a judge. And usually there's 48, 72 hours of things that have happened. And unless you have money, you are not going to be able to have an attorney. We say in the Miranda rights, you have the right to an attorney, but we don't give an attorney. And I changed that in the Bronx with the early defense team because individuals who didn't have money, they could call our hotline, they can come into our office, we walked them into the precinct, facilitated safe surrenders, we invoked for them, we negotiated with the DA's office as well as with police to get cases dismissed before they saw the inside of a courtroom.
Wow.
I pride myself on that, and that is something that one day I would love to bring to Florida, and I would actually love it to be part of our Constitution, because when we say an individual has a right to an attorney when they engage with law enforcement, they should have an attorney there.
That's a great point. And to be quite honest, I never thought about it.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The moment a person is arrested or Mirandized,
Yep.
they are told that they have a right to an attorney. But to your point, they may not see that attorney for 24, 48 to 72 hours.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're out there. Wow, listen, that's forward thinking.
But
That is forward
this
thinking.
goes back to the point that Attorney Jackson just brought up, and that is, I'm gonna tell you the person who, in my opinion, did it the best. Former Chief Judge Belvin Perry. We used to invite him, and this goes back more than 10 years. Greg, we've been doing this show for seven and a half years, but this goes back 10 years or more when Chief Judge Belvin Perry, we used to invite him to come to community forums. Greg and I, we facilitated the APOPCA task force on crime. Judge Belvin Perry would come and provide information. Greg knows all the, what's that y'all call, canons of law kind of stuff. So
I know a few. I just know a few.
Hey, so I don't venture in that area, but Greg just brought up something. I've never, and this is no hit to Mr. Wesley, but I've never seen a public defender out in the community providing information and education to the community like what we're discussing here now.
But listen, let's be fair. It's a tough job.
It is.
I mean,
It is.
and when we talk about what is the, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Brother Love, but when you mention that, because you're right, we're not throwing shade at Mr.
Right,
Wesley.
right.
What we're hoping to point out is that there's a space and a place for the public defender to come out and be a part of certain things. But what is like the average caseload of a public defender?
So it varies, right? It depends on how many attorneys that you have in the office at the time. This is an office where it's 2 counties. They also have a juvenile unit. It's slated for 220 staff overall. I think it's 180 that's actually staffed, and out of that, 120, 130 are actually the attorneys. So you're looking at very high caseloads for the most part, right? In PD's offices as well as state attorney's offices, you have consistent turnover. People come for various reasons, to get the trial experience and leave. Some are lifetime public defenders like myself. But it's making sure that we get the right individuals that are coming in, that have the passion, that want to stay, want to do the work. And that's what I plan to institute when I come into this office. Like you said, you know, no shades to Mr. Wesley. I worked under Mr. Wesley. I learned a lot from Mr. Wesley, and I appreciate that foundational learning that I got from him. And so, but like I said, when I realized the importance of advocating outside the courtroom, I realized that we have to be outside too. We did know your rights at churches and in high schools, and that's kind of what I want to do here, going into and teaching kids how to, if you're stopped by the police, how do you conduct yourself, you know, the safety of yourself and respect, you know, law enforcement. Let your attorney then handle whatever goes wrong, right? And so I did a lot of those things, and that's why I believe that Mr. Wesley is also seeing that I can take what he has laid as a foundation and build
build on
upon
it.
that and elevate it to the next level based on all of the work and experience that I have
Well,
done.
speaking on building,
Building.
what are some of the challenges that you see stepping into those shoes?
You know, the work that I do, when we go into a new office, sometimes the leadership is gung-ho about being holistic, but not necessarily the staff, right? This is something new. People don't take well to change. Some people like it, and some people are just like, no, I like it the way that I've been doing it. Don't change
Don't
it
change
for me.
anything.
You have to show why they need to be buying into it. You have to show what are the, you know, how it actually will benefit them, how it actually makes for good policy, and it makes for client satisfaction. And then it also makes for the attorney to have less work and have a team that's working with them. So I feel like going into the office, you know, you're gonna have to get that buy-in from the attorneys. This is also, like I said, Mr. Wesley has been there for 24 years. This is gonna be changing of the guards, complete different leadership, complete different model. So like I said, people are gonna be apprehensive at first. And I believe once you kind of explain everything to them and they kind of start working in it, I was resistant at first when I went to the Bronx Defenders. I was like, this is not how we did it in Florida. But then I realized the benefits of it, and I saw the differences. You know, there's also maybe financial constraints. Only person that knows about the financials is the public defender, not the first assistant, not the chief assistant, no one else, just the public defender. So only Mr. Wesley and his CFO knows about the finances. So once I'm in the office, then I'll know
You'll
about
know.
the
Right.
finances.
That's right.
And
That's
what
right.
I've learned in this role as a regional director is that what you can't get in the state, you may be able to supplement with grants and philanthropic opportunities. And so I know how to do that.
Yeah.
And I have also connections to be able to do that. So, yeah, I'm ready.
You know, Brother Love, I'm hearing a fresh new perspective on an office that we don't know a whole lot about. And it's great to have an opportunity to speak to Ms. Easter, who is once again a candidate for the 9th Judicial Circuit, Orange County, Osceola County Public Defender's Office. Let folks know how they can find out more about yourself and the campaign.
Okay, so please go to www.lenoraeaster.com, and it's LENORA, Easter like the holiday.com. You will there be able to get more information about my platform, learn more about me. You'll also be able to find out about upcoming events that we're having. We're having a fundraiser on the 16th with Conti Moore Law. You also have an opportunity to engage in canvassing, phone banking to help out with the campaign, and if God lays it upon your heart, to also donate, because you can't do this on pretty faces alone. You also can check me out at Instagram, which is Lenora Easter for Public Defender, and Facebook as well.
Settle one other thing for Greg and I before, because we appreciate all the information that you brought. Now, I know I was probably given a bad date, and Greg may have by chance given the right date, but when is the primary?
August 20th. So you have until July 22nd to register to vote. This year, if you would like your vote by mail ballot, you have to proactively request it.
Okay.
So you have to go online, you have until August 8th to be able to do that, whether that is in Osceola or Orange County. You can go right on the Supervisor of Elections website. It takes 5 minutes, get it done, and it'll come to you. And then August 20th is the election day. August 8th starts early voting.
Now here's the other important thing too, because the public defender's office is a partisan seat.
Yes,
And the other candidate in this particular race is a Democrat also.
correct.
What that means is that this election will be decided in August. So while this is a primary, or what would be considered a primary, because both are in the same party, this is the general election for you.
This really is the general election. It
Yeah.
is, definitely. And I just want to say to everyone, let's make history, because when I win, I will be the first female black public defender in the state of Florida ever.
Wow.
And it's not just on that alone, but as I've spoken about my experience, that we need to look into voting for me.
All right. Well, listen, once again, we want to thank Ms. Lenore Easter for joining us tonight, for giving us some fantastic information about the Public Defender's Office. But more importantly, we want to thank Ms. Easter for coming in and opening up herself and letting us know a little bit about herself, about her background, about her qualifications. And we are going to be looking with very, very much interest at this race. So.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed myself.
Hey, thank you for coming in. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with you on Let's Talk Nation.
Daybreak iFix. Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Jaguars and Porsche. Joe's Quality Auto Repair. I specialize in European cars. Daybreak iFix at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair. Located at 1240 State Road 436 in Altamont Springs. Daybreak iFix. Call me, mention Let's Talk Nation and bring your certified dealership repair quote. And I beat by 30%. Remember, Daybreak iFix. Call me at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair at 407-409-6040. Again, 407-409-6040. After Daybreak iFix. Joe's European Quality Auto Repair.
Hey, y'all caught us. We're having a conversation. Welcome back to Let's Talk Nation. And for those of you who were watching and you witnessed one of our special guests, candidate for
the special guest.
The special guest.
Was
That's right.
candidate for the 9th Circuit Orange Osceola County Public Defender's Office, Ms. Lenore Easter. And, just in full candor, we were just talking about some of the great ideas, some of the great thoughts that Ms. Easter has about the office and how to engage and outreach of the office. But in particular, Brother Love, the fact that we never thought about that from the point and the time that a person is arrested until the time that they're processed, until the time that they see a judge. There's a lot that goes on, and they don't have the benefit of an attorney. And so Ms. Easter, in her conversation with us, was telling us, hey, listen, in another station in life and working with other public defenders across the country, we made sure that they had attorneys that could even actually walk them into what's the surrender?
But you know who was on our show before break that talked about the safe surrender is it Stoveli?
Oh yeah, that's
Pastor
right,
Stoveli.
that's right, Pastor Belli, that's right, yeah, dollar bill, y'all.
Yeah. But Greg, one thing I will say, I played college ball, I ran track, not necessarily a baseball player, but you and I on this show, we throw a lot of.
What'd you run in track?
We ran the 100 meters in the 4x4 relay.
4x4, yeah, it was yards back then. 4x4.
Yeah, you're right. So you're going back way in the day.
I ran the 220. Listen, I ran the 220. So yeah.
But I didn't play baseball.
Listen, the baseball coach told me. I said, "Look, coach, I said I can't run, I can't hit, and I'm scared of the ball." He said, "You could be a base."
You could be a base. But with that being said, I was sitting up here trying to figure out how do I throw a fastball.
Yeah.
During this interview.
Yeah.
And the fastball that I wanted to throw was fastball related to the public defender's role as it relates to public safety.
Yeah.
And before I could even throw it, Miss Easter kind of went ahead and set the tone. And I mean, Greg, those are the kind of things that I like to listen for from a public safety standpoint. I'm not familiar with the nuance of public defenders, but I got educated this evening.
But here's the other thing too, Brother Love, and I want to be very clear about this. In the past, I have been, and I'm not going to say we, I've been critical of state attorneys who took it upon themselves to represent the suspects in a crime, the defendants in a crime. From what I'm hearing tonight and what I already suspected, the proper place for that to be addressed is with the public defender.
Public defender.
I mean, why would I be upset if the public defender is saying, hey, listen, I'm working to make sure that people aren't going into prison. So I'm trying to make sure that the sentencing guidelines are reduced. That's what I expect the public defender to say. And so I'm not going to mention anything else. I'm just going to say the proper place to do those things for individuals who are accused of a crime is with the public defender. Yeah.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So speaking of public defenders, man, I think your president might need a defender.
Well, you know what? Good segue. Good segue.
I think,
Great.
not the president, no. Who's the interviewer? I think the host may need a public defender
The host.
of the radio program.
Man, what?
Oh, don't tell me I'm about to give you some news.
My woman that got she got terminated because she acknowledged that she actually got the questions to ask the president, right?
Well, not that she got the questions. They gave her the
They
questions.
gave her the questions.
To ask.
Okay.
And they gave her 8 approved questions. But listen, brother, we jumped ahead just a little bit. Let's lay the scene for the people just a little bit. So last week, Brother Love and I, we were talking about the presidential debate and how there was some concern amongst us Democrats. Because remember, y'all get confused sometimes. I am a Democrat. I'm just a free-thinking Democrat. But there was some concern amongst us Democrats. Listen, man, about the performance of President Biden at the debate. And so to lay aside or to lay any individual's concerns about his acuity or about his age and things like that, President Biden decided that he was going to do an interview with George Stephanopoulos on ABC. I am a little sad to report that Brother Love had to call me on, was that Thursday night or Friday night?
Oh man, one of those nights.
Must have been Friday night.
And I was trying to see if you caught it, and you didn't catch it, and so I had to go back and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But then, before I watched it on YouTube, you and I both, along with Doc Polite, we started turning all the different channels, listening to what the talking heads had to say. That allay any of the concerns, of which, when I was watching the talking heads, Greg, I was watching the talking heads from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, that had deep concerns about Joe Biden's performance and about his ability, what they believe is going to be his ability to serve another 4 years. And watching the George Stephanopoulos interview, Brother Love, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it sounds as if he was also given questions by the White House to ask him, because the same responses that he had in that interview are similar to or the same as the responses that he had on 2 radio interviews where that was stated. But here's the thing that caught me as interesting, Brother Love. I don't want to say strange or odd. I'm just going to say that was interesting to me. George Stephanopoulos actually did a very good, objective interview.
He pushed the envelope.
He pushed the envelope. He asked the hard. I believe he really
But
asked the hard questions.
before you go, Greg, let's go ahead and put this out there. Come on. Part of the carrot for some of those networks to actually get the interview is that I'm sure they slide in some of the questions from the White House.
Yeah, I'm sure they did, but the one question I know that they didn't to slide to George Stephanopoulos was he asked President Biden. He said, "Do you really think you're winning this election? You don't think that you're losing?" I mean, he asked some really hard questions that I believe the American people need to understand why he was asking those questions, because I think it was the Democratic Party that was more so watching this than anybody else.
Yeah, you're right.
And President Biden, when he was asked the question of, what happened on that night? And he said, I just had a bad night. As a matter of fact, I had a cold. I didn't get enough rest. And George Stephanopoulos said, it was 11 days from between the time that you left, Europe until the time of the debate. You mean to tell me you didn't have, I mean, literally, these are the questions that George Stephanopoulos, who is a former Democratic operative, because remember he worked with the Clintons, was asking Joe Biden. And I appreciate George Stephanopoulos for asking the hard questions, because we had to see for ourselves what we have suspected for a number of months now.
You didn't mention the other question that I'm
It was
sure,
a bunch of them.
but the one that he asked if the president would sit for a
cognitive, And Joe Biden's response was, I have a cognitive exam every day. It's not possible. It's not possible. He doesn't have a cognitive exam every single day. And you know, and just going back when he was asking, well, why weren't you prepared? What he said was, well, I had a very bad cold. I was sick. I had a cold. But he asked him the same question towards the middle part of the interview. We know, well, what happened that night? I don't know. So it went from I was tired, from I was sick, to I don't know. And I think that that's the real answer here. Joe Biden has no idea what happened on that night.
And Greg, as we sit here, unless something has changed in the last 24 or 48 hours, I'm not sure. As you and I have been keeping up with the ever-changing, evolving issues as it relates to who's supporting, who's asking that he consider stepping down, something that came to light was the Black Congressional Caucus.
Okay.
100% of the caucus at this point, nobody has broken ranks. And, you know, I say that, Greg, when we have conversation and we talk about the best interests for communities and your constituents, I just found it real interesting that you have a lot of Democratic House members, and then there was supposed to be Senate members that were going to gather to talk about meeting with the president as a group for him to consider stepping down. But nobody in the Congressional Black Caucus has said a word or questioned this based on what I've seen.
Well, that's because aside from a few free-thinking African Americans who are Democrats, most Democrats just follow it and carry the line of the Democratic Party. That's the problem that the Democratic Party has had with me, is that I don't just go along to get along, and I will say what I believe is the right thing to say in the best interest of the community that I consider and call home. Anyone that sat there and watched the debate, first and foremost, even Joe Biden was like, well, he was yelling and screaming and he was lying so much, and then George Stephanopoulos, because, you know, sometimes people don't believe me, they have to hear from someone who doesn't look like me for it to be valid. But even George Stephanopoulos said, well, you were struggling even before he said a word. And my point is this: anyone that sat there and watched that debate, anyone that watched the interview that he gave to George Stephanopoulos that doesn't look at that and have some concern and is unwilling to express that concern, I think that they're doing a disservice to the African American community, as well as the white community, as well as the Hispanic community, as well as the Asian American community. Understand this: Hispanics have no problem saying that Joe Biden is a concern for them. The white community has no problems, aside from certain, hard-line liberals, have no problem saying this is a concern for us. As a matter of fact, you have five House Democratic representatives from Maine, Texas, Arizona, Illinois, and Minnesota who have said that this is a concern, and it continues to rise. You have Democratic pundits who are saying that this is a significant concern. So why is it that African Americans have a problem saying this is a concern for us to see an 80-year-old man who is struggling cognitively? This was not someone just having a bad night. This was someone who is struggling cognitively on that stage, and he's not going to be handed questions when the hard issues take place in this country. He's not going to be handed pre-scripted questions when the hard issues take place in this country. He's going to have to be able to stand on his 2 feet and think through those things at a spot's notice, and he showed us on that stage that he cannot, and he struggles to do it.
So Greg, and I'm glad you said that, but here's where I'm going with that, and you and I, we've had this conversation already before. When you look at, and yeah, we don't believe polling 100%, but when you look at what the polling says about African American men and where their support is going, man, you can't question it when you look at a caucus that is 100% saying we're sticking with this guy. We don't believe that there's any issues.
So wait. Now, so let's be clear with Let's Talk Nation. So when you say African American males and which way they're turning, which way does it appear that African American males are starting to turn?
Republican.
Now, that's a problem for a lot of people, because they're saying that that's not true. And as long as you, and here's the problem too, Brother Love, and I challenge people to go and watch the interview of the two radio hosts that interviewed Joe Biden after the George Stephanopoulos interview. Now, you're going to see a clear difference between how an African-American male assessed Joe Biden during his interview and how an African-American female assessed Joe Biden during her interview. The African-American male, if you go back and you watch, I think that he gave a very objective view of what he saw. He said, listen, you know, I support Joe Biden, but that Joe Biden is not even the same Joe Biden that I saw 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is some decline there. You can't blame this on speech impediment and things like that. There's something going on. The black female was more forgiving and saying, well, you know, it's really nothing to it, and I can't believe that people are saying this. And that's the problem, Brother Love, and that has been the problem for a lot of years, that African-American females and African-American males don't see eye to eye on certain things, and African-American females are more accommodating and more forgiving on issues that we should not be and cannot be forgiving on.
Greg, I tell you, anytime I have a conversation with a person, and I'm
Except when it comes to a black male like me that says that what they're doing, they should be doing. Now they'll skewer me now. They'll skewer me.
but you know what, Greg? Here's the issue. To have a legitimate, logical, common sense conversation, and it's not to say any particular person is right or wrong, but what I'm looking for is, how does it improve the quality of life for me, my family, my community, when you navigate this process, Greg, and those black men are having questions about their pockets. They're having questions about what has the other party, and I'm not, you know, slicing and dicing this, but they're asking those questions, Greg, that not just the questions that we pose, but how is who you elect doing your research to impact the quality of your life?
But I'm going to say this, Brother Love, and I've been very clear about this also. All right? I think the whole thing is a mess.
It is.
I think the whole
It
thing is a mess.
right.
I think that Joe Biden should not be the nominee for the Democratic Party. Although I predicted that he would be the nominee for the Democratic Party back in 2020. I didn't think that he was the right
don't know
person,
how you
but I
came
figured
up
that,
with
I
that,
figured
but
that he was
yeah.
going to, and he did. I don't feel that he should be the Democratic nominee right now, but the truth of the matter is that he is the Democratic nominee, and he's going to remain the Democratic nominee. He's not going to step down, and they can't force him to step down because these are his delegates. I don't think that Donald Trump should be the Republican nominee, but he's not my party, so that's up to the Republicans at this point. And so I think the whole thing is a mess, Brother Love.
And there's no fix. There's no immediate fix in the very near future.
It's not. But listen, we were in the Democratic Party. I believe that we were, and I hate to say that we were set up for this, but I think we were set up for this because all of these months that we've been saying, hey, look at Joe Biden. This doesn't seem right. When he fell off the bicycle, Brother Love, that's old man stuff.
That's old man
when
stuff.
He fell up walking up, not walking downstairs. When he fell walking upstairs, when he almost fell off the stage. When you watch him and his steps are getting shorter and shorter, he has almost like the old man trot. When you listen to how he speaks and you hear that his voice is getting softer, he's more whispering now. When you sometimes see him and he is all fired up and then you see him the next day and he is more muted, these are signs of a person. If this was my great uncle, because that's how old my great uncle would have to be. If this was my great uncle, I'll say, listen, we need to put him in a home.
So let me ask you this. What was, because President Biden met with Democratic governors from around the country.
So you know what?
Did I set you up for that?
You know what,
So-
man? I didn't know this was comedy hour. Now,
Hey,
I didn't know it was comedy
so
hour.
what did he tell him his solution was?
Honestly, the biggest thing that came out of the meeting with the Democratic governors is that Joe Biden said that his solution is that he's going to have to stop taking events after 8 p.m. so that he can get more rest. That is not what I expect to hear from a president, Brother Love. That's not even what I expect to hear from a mayor.
And
Let Brian Nelson from the great city of Apopka or Mary Dimmons from the great city of Orlando call here and say, you know what, guys, I think I'm going to go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm going to start taking events at 8 o'clock so I can have some more rest. I'm going to say, listen, man, it's
That's the
time
solution.
it's time for you to, you might want to step aside and let somebody else get in there because this is being the leader of the free nation. That is basically what the U.S. president is, being the leader of the most powerful nation in the world. Don't be confused about this nation and who we are. Don't listen to these kids and think that this is a horrible nation. This is one of the greatest nations that has ever been charted in the history of the world. Whenever we go in, brother, we're probably the only country that whenever we go in and we defeat someone, we help them to rebuild.
You're right.
When we find and we see that there are issues going across the world, we are the world's police. We help other countries who cannot help themselves. We feed individuals who cannot feed themselves. This is a great country. I don't want people to be I don't want people to be fooled by some of the stuff that you hear. This is the greatest country in the world, or one of the freest countries in the world, and you cannot do the things in other countries that you do here. And you know how I know, Brother Love, because I've been to other countries where you cannot do what we do here.
Well, all of that was well said. Now I'm gonna give you the most difficult question.
What's that?
You already said you don't anticipate any changes taking place in terms of him stepping down.
Right.
But what are some of the viable, I guess, replacements for him if that were to take place?
You know, brother, it's getting so desperate. It's getting so desperate that they've been, you know, and listen, we're not talking about Republicans that are saying this. Let's not be confused. These are Democrats who are saying this. Maybe we should institute the 25th Amendment and say that he is no longer fit to serve as president, and then allow Kamala Harris to serve as president. What they're saying is that maybe he'll go to the convention and say, I don't accept your nomination, and I think that you should endorse, you put the name. This is how desperate Democrats are getting, and I don't think that it's going to get any better. And as long as, you know, we've had individuals that are saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden, he's fine, he's going to be able to serve another 4 years. They've been telling us for 2 years, Brother Love, and we've missed out on 2 years of finding a viable candidate on the Democratic side to run against Donald Trump, who I think Donald Trump is easily beatable with the right candidate.
Has this ever happened in our history?
This is, no,
I'm
no,
just
not
sitting
even
there.
close.
Was it Lyndon Johnson? Or
Lyndon B?
Some,
Nah, you make me think about FDR.
okay,
Yeah.
but Greg,
Who had polio or something? Yeah, he was wheelchair bound, and,
Yeah.
and they kept his illness under wraps. But listen to this, oh, Brother Love. He had a physical impairment. What we're seeing with Joe Biden is not physical, Brother Love. This is not physical. This is cognitive, which is much, much, much different than the physical impairment. I mean, who was that? Stephen Hawking, who was wheelchair bound, was one of the most brilliant minds that you ever want to see, and his impairment was not cognitive. It was physical, but he was still one of the most brilliant minds in the world. Doc Polite, what you got?
You know, Reagan had Alzheimer's. That was well documented. So FDR, and there's one other person that was a president that was incapacitated, not fully functioning. I want to say Grover Cleveland. It's one of the ones that died in office.
Yeah, I can't think of that one now. Now, you going back into the 1800s.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's very telling. It's very telling. I just wanted to share that tidbit.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, up until 2020, or maybe up until 2016, Ronald Reagan was the oldest serving president at age 67, if I recall correctly, 67, 68. And I think he got out at 70, if I recall correctly. I may be off on my numbers, but we're now talking someone who is 10 years past what Ronald Reagan was.
oh man, and before we go on, is it Dr. Sanjay Gupta?
Okay.
Who actually, and it surprised a lot of people, but he has called for President Biden to undergo a cognitive test, and he says it's not unusual for somebody in his age range, just as a health and wellness perspective, to undergo that, and
Yeah.
it blew everybody's mind that he actually, from his profession.
Why? But listen, why? If there's nothing wrong, why not? I mean, listen. If you are cognitively fit, listen. As much as I hate to say this, ask Donald Trump to take a cognitive test tomorrow. What you think he's going to do?
Probably not.
Donald Trump? I think he'll take it just to prove a point. That's my take. Now, you know, I may be wrong. I think that he'll take. My point is, if there's no issues and someone says, "Hey, take this cognitive," but you might be right, because Donald Trump wouldn't give up his taxes. So you're right. He might.
But
he
here's
probably wouldn't do
the
it.
perspective.
Yeah, he won't do it.
From an optics standpoint, when you saw President Biden on the stage next to former President Donald Trump, the optics of it, you know, and I gotta say, man, Trump not only looked sharp, but he was well, at one point.
Trump looked sharper. I ain't gonna say, listen, because he didn't look like a spring chicken either. When he
But-
walked out on stage, I'm like, look at these two old folks coming
You're
out
right,
on stage.
but the optics, I mean, standing next to the person, and then when he said, "Hey," to the host, he says, "I don't know what he."
And I don't think he knows either. Yeah.
He said, "I don't know what he just said."
Yeah.
You know, but Greg, here's the firing round, man, because I got to hit you with these. United States Supreme Court ruling, man.
Look, Brother Love, we defeated Medicare. That's all you need to know.
that was almost like commercial S, if you would. Come
Don't
on,
ask me
man.
no questions because we defeated Medicare.
Back in 1979, man. Come on, give me something.
Oh man. So now, back in 1979, I want people to stop this fear mongering, Brother Love. And the reason why I say that is because everyone is saying, hey, now with this Supreme Court ruling giving the president immunity, which I think is proper, that if they are operating under official duties, that they should have immunity. That is just unheard of. But now people are saying that Donald Trump is making himself to become a king, that he's making it where he won't be able to be removed as president. Listen, if that was the case, he would not be running right now because he would still be president. This country is too great. The Constitution is too great for one man to change 200 plus years of history. And the reason why I mentioned Ronald Reagan in this in 1979, Brother Love, is that when Ronald Reagan was running against Jimmy Carter, in the community that I was in, I heard black people saying, if Ronald Reagan wins, we might as well move back to Africa. Praise the Lord, we didn't move to Africa, Brother Love. Because, I mean, that's just fear-mongering. And I'm afraid, because I'm like, please don't let Ronald Reagan win, because I don't want to move to Africa. But people have to stop
But
this.
where is that coming from, though, Greg? I mean, the media is driving a lot of this.
Well, the media's driving it. A lot of African Americans in these communities that are supporting Democrat positions are doing this too. Oh, if he wins, this is gonna happen. We got to go back to Africa. All that. That's not. Listen, it's not true. Please stop this. Donald Trump is not going to become king. This country is not a monarchy. It never is and never will be. So please stop that, and that's not going to happen. This Supreme Court ruling only gives the president immunity if they're doing official acts and duties. That's it.
So, Greg, Chief John Roberts,
Yeah.
Chief Justice, I should say, he is the one that basically presented what the Supreme Court, but you had, what, three dissenters from that opinion?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you had Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown, Ketanji Jackson Brown, and I forget, I forget the other one's name, I apologize. Starts with a B, whoever it is.
So, Greg, what does this do does this push back the case that's been pending as it relates to his immunity?
It's going to have an effect on it because it's going to be sent back to the lower court in order to evaluate, how to best rule on that case to determine if he was acting in his official capacity as president or if this was something other than that. And that's going to be left up to the courts and to the jury. And so, this is not giving Donald Trump full immunity. It may actually help Joe Biden. It may help other presidents in the future when they're doing things in their official capacity. This is a good thing for presidents and not a thing to make Trump
So
king.
basically, bottom line is you say stop the fear-mongering.
Stop fear, please. Please.
Man, brother, we're going to stop the fear-mongering. We appreciate our special guest that we had in the studio this evening. Let's Talk Nation is going to continue to do what we have done, and that is bringing the news and information to you. Brother Jackson, my friend, I got to say this to you. Been saying it to you for 7+ years now, but you don't have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
Until next Monday on Let's Talk Nation, please join me and the General so that we can bring some information to you.
Raising my IQs. Raising my
Raise them
IQs.
IQs. Hey, we'll see y'all next week.